Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a video looking at the new passes that are live in the Rise to War. Now, I'll put a picture on the screen right now because the map we're on right now is from a different game, which there's a reason it's there, so stay with me. But this picture on the screen, this is from a Kings of Men season. As you can see right now, there's a pass for 70 billion siege, and there are 55 level 50 armies. So it's very clear, and they've said this in their videos, they want it to be more difficult to move into enemy regions and to fight enemy players. They want there to be some separation, so if there are bigger groups, they're not able to move through as easily, and it gives other players more times to react and do things and so on and so forth. So there is a method to their madness here, but this is what we've seen kind of coming out in the new servers, and it got some conversations going about the similarities between that and Rise of Kingdoms, which is the map I have on the screen right here. So I want to talk through how this map that I have behind me at the moment works, because I think it could give us an idea for how this might end up playing out long term, which if they execute this properly, this could be one of the best things for the game. I think they're slowly taking steps in the right direction, but we need to have some balance in the game. We need to have the experience be good for every player. If you're playing in a small team or your team's not playing 24/7, you shouldn't be punished for playing this game, because that's just going to hurt the player base. And there are so many people. I even did a video recently called, should you play the Rise to War? I'll link that up in the top right if you're curious. And I talked through like a general summary of my thoughts on the game. And the comments were very mixed from players who were like, I love it, this is fun. And other players who were like, no, if you don't want to play 24/7, don't do this. I wouldn't recommend it. So it's very hit or miss, but it can be very chaotic. So if there's a way that they can kind of control that a bit, where no matter what kind of player you are, you can have fun and not get rolled over in the first week, I think there's huge potential. So let's go ahead and roll the intro. We're going to explain a little bit about this map from a Rise of Kingdoms perspective. All right, now it should go without saying, although maybe people don't know this, I do not play Rise of Kingdoms. I never have played it, but I've talked to a lot of people who have played it. I just got off the phone with EQ for about an hour, talking through and making sure I understand exactly how this works, because I do feel like this is kind of the direction it's headed in. So if you are a Rise of Kingdoms player, maybe you're playing both, that'd be awesome. You can let us know if I'm way off base here. But I do see similarities with the Rise to War and Rise of Kingdoms, and I kind of hope it keeps moving in that direction. I mean, if you looked up the grossing or the the downloads or whatever for both of these games, I know far and away that Rise of Kingdoms is going to be much higher, and it has been. It's been out for a lot longer period of time. So they're obviously doing something right, and I don't think there's anything wrong with games looking at what's working in other games and implementing that into their game. Now, obviously, I hope it has its own uniqueness to it, and I hope it's still the game that we know and love. But I think it's okay to look at other games that are successful and say, okay, why does this work? Why do players keep coming back and playing this? Why is it good for new players? Why is it good for free to play? Whatever it is, all those questions. So anyway, with all that spiel out of the way, I want to quickly illustrate this, because I don't want this to be too long a video, but I say that and then we're here until, whatever. So basically how this works is, as you can see, there are number 1, number 2, number 3, all the way, the lightest color green. These are regions. These are starting regions on the map in Rise of Kingdoms, and your kingdom can start in any one of these, and you start in there, and you can't move out of there until the passes, these bridge looking things right here that I'm drawing these lines on, until those open, you cannot move out of your starting region. So kind of the first thing that I want to lay down is that everyone starts in their own region. And I think it's a little bit less chaotic of a start, because everyone has the same amount of time to level up their commanders, to gain resources, and to work together as a team to capture the control points. As you can see, there's 4 or 5. I think there's 5 different little control points, or whatever you want to call them, in each of the regions. So you have stuff to do in that first week, leveling, farming, and capturing these areas. And if you have captured those areas, and once the timer reaches, I think it's about a week, then the first passes open up. Now, when the passes open up, you can only move forward into the next area, which is the next, darkest shade of green. I'll kind of indicate those by a 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that. So those are the next passes that are opening up, and you can only go into those passes if you are adjacent to them. So this group here, number 8, 1, and 2, can go into this first pass that's opening up, and this one that I have labeled as 3, groups 2, 3, and 4 can go into this one. So there's some flexibility for the groups that are on the sides, on the like north, south, west, east sides. They can go into either the zone above or below them, or both, or whatever it is. But the ones that are in the corners just can move forward into those zones. So those are going to open up after about a week, and you can move into the zones. But it's important to note, and this is where I think this could be very, very good if they do it right, you still cannot move into an enemy's starting zone at this point. So if this group 1 right here just comes in and dominates and takes everything in this next zone and is just kicking absolute butt, they can't move into the starting region of 2 or the starting region of 8 and take those control points they have. They can't take the resources. So it lets everyone kind of retain a relative amount of power. Now, obviously, how would this actually work out in practice? I don't know. But in my mind, not losing all your resources and being demoralized could keep groups in it a lot longer, because sometimes that's the reason that groups win, is they get the steam going and people can't stop them because they've lost their resources or they've lost motivation or activity. So being able to keep a starting region kind of locked down, to me, would be very, very good. So starting regions are locked. You can move forward into the next one. Now, after, I don't know the periods of time here, but after another period of time, maybe it's another week or month or whatever it is, after more time has passed, the next zone will open up. So there are these next passes that I'm drawing little arrows on right up here in the top left with my wonderful art here. These passes will open up. And again, you can only move forward through these passages at this point. So any of the groups 8, 1, or 2 that moved into this zone 1 could move forward into these next zones that we'll call A, B, C, and D, just to kind of keep them straight. So you have to move forward from the zone behind it, but you can't go through and like go back into another zone. So if someone from zone 3, for example, this group 3 takes zone 3 and then they go into zone B, they can't then go back into zone 1 yet at this point. You can still only move forward through the passages. And again, your starting zones are still locked off. You can move forward out of them, but people can't move into them. So even if a group is very, very strong and they're moving forward and they've taken out very quickly their first and now like other passages in the area, there'll still be other groups all around the map that have a relative amount of power and can be planning to do things. And obviously, the more they move forward, if group 1 moves all the way forward into area B, they might leave some stuff a little bit unguarded here in this first area 1 we looked at. So potentially groups 2 and 8 could kind of do a pincer attack and go in. I think it keeps things more interesting, as opposed to in the first week, giant group in the corner just comes down here and knocks out group 8, and basically they quit playing because they have nothing and they're uprooted all over the place and they have 0 resources. And then they go up here and they destroy group 2 and they have all this land, but there's no competition there because they've essentially killed it. And people are like, well, my season's over. And that's what happens. In this case, with how it works here, there's still a safe area that prevents that from happening. So anyway, you move on from there and you go into the last zone. They have an area, it's called the Ziggurat, if I'm not mistaken, which is like the One Ring for Rise to War. These final passages will open. You can go in forward from the passages that are connected to them. And then once the ring, the big Ziggurat in the middle is taken, then all of the passes open up, to my understanding. So then, even your home regions are able to be, entered in forwards, backwards, whatever it is. So it keeps things off limits for a little while. It's not like they're off limits forever, but you have a certain amount of time, like, which from my understanding ends up being most of the season by the time this is taken. So groups have a harder time just rolling through and destroying people and then having no competition for the ring. If they are moving forward and doing this and holding these passes, there's a really good chance that other groups all around the map are also continuing to build in power and plan to do things if they've taken that to move into their land. So if, again, this first group moves down here, and this is group number 1 right here, again, once this is taken, if their lands open up, you could have groups 2 and 8 plotting to attack them and do things like that. Again, I don't play this, so I might be botching it, and I apologize if I am, but I just wanted to illustrate really quickly what this game looks like in terms of the map structure and the like general progress of the season. So let's hop back over to the Rise to War map and kind of add some closing thoughts. And again, let me know what you guys think, because I do think if they do this right, and we can encourage this. So if we have a chance to share, our thoughts on the updates and changes, I hope we can all kind of encourage this type of map, because I do think, to me, it sounds way better to kind of let's say for 75% of the season, your main resources cannot be touched. That's going to give so many groups the ability to continue fighting for a lot longer time. And who doesn't like fighting? Everyone likes fighting. That's why I play this game. So to get shut out in the first 2 weeks and then not play isn't fun. So let's hop back to the Rise to War map here. All right, so here is the Rise to War map again. Now, the thing we don't know about this, and again, we'll have to see, it doesn't look to me like the passes are locked. There's no indication that they're under protection of any kind, nor if they're only accessible going in or out or whatever it is. So to me, the first thing I'd say to the devs, or for anybody that's involved in that process, is the communication, while they have been putting some out, has been so vague. And they, in their Underhill videos, they just say, we're adding, more difficult passes to go through, so big groups can't just stomp everyone. And that's all they say. And then it's in the season, it's live, and people are like, oh, what does this mean? So I don't think a post on passes would have been bad on their part to come out and say, hey, this is why we're doing this. We feel like it's going to really help smaller groups maintain some of their areas for a little bit longer, and then go into more detail if there are other things about it. If you can only if there's time limited, or if they're based on server progression, or if they can only be accessed from certain directions or whatever it is. But they haven't really told us any of that. So my understanding right now is that not a whole lot has changed. They've just added these really big structures. So it's going to be harder to go out or get attacked super early. But I don't think the general structure of things has changed outside of that. So what I would love to see is an adjustment of the map. I know it's the Middle Earth map. Trust me, I'm the biggest Lord of the Rings fan in the world, and I want to stay as lore accurate as possible. But I think if it creates a better game experience, there could be some adjustments that allow us to have a more kind of symmetrical map that can be done like the one we looked at previously, where you have safer areas where you can't have your resources taken until the One Ring is taken. So you're protected, you can do stuff for a while. I think it would really make a lot of sense. So again, just wanted to make this video kind of really just talking through the Rise of Kingdoms map, because I think that's where this could go. But I think we need to rally behind that idea and make sure we have our voices heard in that. So I'm posting this to kind of explain, hey, if this is a step in that direction, we need to go all the way, not just introduce big passes, but not implement the other mechanics. Something else that I'm concerned about is just big passes here with not enough activity to do in your own region. I think could make for a very boring first week, depending on how things go. So, something like Heart of a Hero on the weekends, it's not very fun. It's very repetitive. A lot of people don't even play it anymore, other than those who really need gold. So if they changed Heart of a Hero to be something where you're actually raiding much larger bosses in your own region. So in the first week, you're defending your region against these huge bosses that spawn in. You have to coordinate and do things with your team. And the more points you get or whatever, you get different awards. I think they could implement stuff that wouldn't be that difficult, that are sort of already structurally in the game, to make that first week or whatever, that starting point, really fun, where you're leveling up commanders, you're getting resources, you're defending against these big bosses during whatever events they have during the week. You're taking some of the keeps to get some bonuses going and prepping to move out and move forward. And I think they've got some of that structure there, but we're a little bit away from it right now. So anywho, that is going to do it for today's video. Again, I just want to talk through some of that. That's just a lot of what the channel is, just like talking through ideas to hopefully get some stuff moving in the right direction. So let me know what you guys think down below. You like these ideas? You don't like them? Do you want something totally different, or are you okay with a map that's sort of what we talked about on the Rise of Kingdoms size? But let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in a future video.